And you mentioned it's important to stay level-headed, stay neutral, but fans obviously are not usually like that. If you looked honestly on social media after the game, the first and most prevalent thing that was going on was Ryan Day's record against top five teams being 2-6, and that he's on the hot seat. Those were the two most important, the two biggest things on social media. How do you respond to that?
Yeah. Well, one, I don't have any mentions turned on my social media, so I don't even, if they're talking to me, I don't even see it anyway. Here's what I said when I had my opening statement back in January when I first got announced is Ohio State Athletics, we are a public trust of the state of Ohio, meaning people feel like they have ownership, in the program, in the university, and that's okay. We embrace that. We embrace those high expectations. So I mentioned that I know people care. Now we need to channel that, right? If it gets extreme, and there's things that Coach Day and his family have had to endure that no one should have to endure, even after Saturday night's game. So that, to me, that part's unacceptable. We cannot have people, act that way. But it's okay to point out facts. It's okay to point out certain things. We all understand that. We're all a product of competition, and we all get evaluated, right? There's a scoreboard for a reason. We keep score. And so, look, my job is to figure out with Coach Day, hey, are there any barriers? Hey, what are you analyzing as we go through this? What are you looking at in terms of, watching the film or watching the schematics or watching the game plan or, what led up to, that particular game or that particular moment? My job is to just support him, help him through that, help him analyze, right, any deficiencies that might be there. But we got to remember, we lost to the number 3 team on the road by 1 point and had the ball, had a chance to win, right? And so I look at big picture also in terms of how the program operates on a day-to-day basis. And Coach Day is the most consistent football coach and leader that I've been around in my career. And I've been around some great coaches, and he has a level-headed perspective. He works his tail off. He's a super, super innovator in terms of the modern day game. We've adapted to this whole new model. So you've got to look at the big picture, and then you sit down and say, okay, what do we need to do to fix that record that you mentioned, right? What do we need to do to manage through this and support our players and get back on track? But we got to remember, we are the standard bearer because of what's come before us, and we get that. And so how do we live up to that? Those are the things that we constantly talk about.
Now, away from coaching on the field, Ryan Day recruits like a machine. That's what he does. There's no denying it. He's relentless. How important do you think recruiting is to the success of a head coach?
Well, I like to say recruiting is like brushing your teeth. If you stop brushing your teeth, what happens? You get ugly. If you stop recruiting, you can get ugly pretty fast. And so recruiting is nonstop. This week, because it's a bye week, our coaches are out. They're going to see games on Friday night. And so Ohio State's always going to be able to recruit the best of the best. And that's what's really neat about this program is we can always go after the top, players in the country. And we can also go after the top character. We don't have to take shortcuts. And I've been really impressed with the character of our team as much as their talent. And so those two things, I think, go hand in hand. But it comes down to evaluation. It comes down to character evaluation. It comes down to who is surrounding all of these young men, who's in their family, who's in their network, because that impacts what happens once they step foot on campus. So we do all of that at a really high level here. And the Ohio State brand is nationwide, and we get to capitalize on that. We sell more merchandise than anybody. We have more fans than anybody in the country. That leads over to recruiting. And so, again, we get to capitalize on that. And that's where I think Coach Day, and if you look at the staff, it's not only Coach Day, but we have elite recruiters on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. And now that there's legislation where others can coach that weren't allowed to before, then essentially everybody's a talent evaluator now, and I think we have a really good system. So recruiting really is the number one thing in terms of, mapping out, the future of the program.